Hello and welcome to Webheads Comic Club. This is our new podcast. He's laughing. He's trying to hold it back. I can see you. You're trying.
The name of this podcast.
Yeah, Webheads Comic Club. Episode 1, so we are nervous and all of that. We don't know what the heck we're doing here, but I am your co-host, DA Comics, joined by...
JP. Plain and simple.
Of JP Creations. So we two-lettered names, DA and JP.
Yep.
So this is a new thing that we're going to be doing. We are longtime Amazing Spider-Man collectors and readers, as some of you may know. Some of you may not even know us. But for this podcast, we had a realization that we have not read every single issue of Amazing Spider-Man.
We have not.
At least I haven't. I don't know if you have. I definitely have not.
No, that would be quite the achievement.
Yeah, so as part of, I guess, the hype of Spider-Man No Way Home and everything going on, we decided it was time to tackle those comic books that we've never read. So we are going to be reading through every single issue of Amazing Spider-Man, starting all the way from where it began at Amazing Fantasy 15 up to current, which we're almost up to issue 900 now, so...
Yeah, it is a uphill battle because how many times a month are these coming out right now? Every other day?
Like 3 times a month, yeah. But, I mean, we're reading 5 issues an episode, so technically we catch up over time.
I didn't do the math on it, so...
It's a lot of episodes. So there will be plenty of Webheads to come. But the whole point of this is it's kind of like a comic book club. So we're going to be reading about 5 issues per episode. So any of you guys listening or watching at home, you can read along with us. So if you want to do that, pause this episode now and go read Amazing Fantasy 15 and Amazing Spider-Man 1 through 5. And that's what we're going to be discussing this episode. We're going to be doing these every week. Every week.
Why are you looking at me? I mean, I agree to it.
We're going to try to do every week. Now, whether JP sticks to every week, we'll see.
Well, what do you mean, JP? Our longtime viewers that know us are like, okay, we'll see you in 3 years. Like,
that's right, exactly. That's where I say we're trying to stick to some consistency. We're going to be going every week. I think doing this in podcast format, we're going to be trying to do it pretty legitimately. So you can see these every single Monday right here on my YouTube channel, DA Comics, and also on some podcast platforms. I don't know as of yet which platforms they will be on. We're shooting for Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. So you can listen to these as podcasts, or you can watch them on YouTube if you want to see our ugly faces and do it that way. But okay, I'll speak for myself. Yeah, you can see my ugly face and JP's beautiful face. But
my 480p camera.
But yeah, we're going to be diving through and discussing each issue and kind of talking about our favorite moments and talk about a bit of the history of Spider-Man. So if you've never read Spider-Man, maybe you've never read a comic book in your life and you want to know a little bit more about Spider-Man's history, you can come through and we'll tell you more about it. But I highly recommend you read along with us. I think that'll be the optimum way to consume this podcast. So
yeah, listening to this podcast does not replace actually reading them yourself.
Read the comics.
Especially reading the old ones is an experience.
That's one way to put it. It is an experience. I think that was my biggest takeaway from reading these comics this week was like, wow, comic books have evolved over time.
And my picture of them in my head as I grow older has changed as well.
Oh, yeah. Some of these comics I haven't read since I was a kid.
Literally like 6 years ago, probably.
Yeah. So, and it's also, I think it's a different experience reading them back to back because you actually get to follow the story. Yeah.
And there is actually story in these earlier books. It's less than there is now, but there actually is like connecting.
It's less deep of a story, but man, oh man, is there a lot of exposition in these old comic books.
Hold on.
Like, there's just like narration and narration.
These books take a long time to read. I'm a slow reader. I get that. But still, there is like so much dialogue and like narration in these earlier issues. It's insane.
Yeah, that's what it's like. And now we cut away to this scene. I'm like, all right, Stan, like, you can just draw the picture. Like, we don't need a full exposition of what's going on. But I think this is as good a point as I need to dive into our first issue, where it all started. Obviously, I said we're going to be reading every issue of Amazing Spider-Man. Technically, this is not Amazing Spider-Man, but you can't start a run of Spider-Man without going where it all started. Amazing Fantasy 15.
Yeah, 15. That's right.
Now, we're also are collectors as well as readers. So as we're going through, we're going to I thought it'd be fun to kind of show if we have any of the books that are in these episodes. Neither of us has Amazing Fantasy 15. Yet.
I wanted to surprise you, actually.
Yet.
I left it for this episode.
I was about to say
I have a big old reprint of it, but I mean that's about it.
Yeah, I've got my digital copy right here.
There you go.
Yeah, not yet. One day. And
I was looking at the prices on eBay today, man.
I didn't say one day soon. I said one day. That's where whenever that day comes, I can guarantee you can find a video right here on this channel. I will be showing that comic book. I forgot to mention, socials are down here in the corners. You can see his over there. Twitter, YouTube. You've got YouTube, Instagram over there. So if you want to go and follow us there, go and check us out. But let's dive into it. So Amazing Fantasy 15, each issue we're going to kind of talk about when it was published, key issues for it, go over a summary of it, and then kind of give our thoughts about it. So Amazing Fantasy 15, I'll just dive right into the key issues because there's a lot of them. It was published, all right, this is the part, June 5th, 1962.
Oh.
June 5th.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I thought they were all 1963.
His first appearance was 1962. And we'll talk about the dates of the other issues later because I noticed something interesting that I did not realize. We talked about it a little bit before recording. But so June 5th, 1962. Obviously, it's the first appearance of Spider-Man. First appearance of Aunt May. First and only appearance of Uncle Ben, of course. And it's the first appearance of Flash Thompson and Liz Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't think Liz is actually named in this issue, but she is in it.
Right.
And she obviously becomes a pretty important character as the years go on. So that's a key issue. Not quite as big as the first appearance of Spider-Man. Of course, that's what everyone cares about. Right. But do you wanna kick us off with a summary?
I mean, how can you summarize such a classic issue? I mean, obviously, we see our man Peter Parker in full flesh. We see Spider-Man. We see how he gets to being Spider-Man. We get to see... This is the part you need to fucking cut out. I don't know. You put me on the spot. What are you doing this way?
We get to see sweater vest and all. Sweater vest and all.
So, we literally get to see every single part of the classic origin of Spider-Man issue. Mm-hmm. It is not drawn out. I'm going to talk about that more in a bit. It is not drawn out. It happens fast. And it's all in this issue. And that's the overview you want. That it's all the classic parts of Spider-Man that everybody knows. It happens.
Right. Yeah. Bit by the spider. Burglar. Doesn't stop him. Crusher Hogan fight. Diving into my thoughts on it, like you mentioned, and this is true of all of the old Stan Lee comic book. You go read Thor's first appearance, you go read the Avengers 1, you go read Captain America first appearance. They're all just like bing, bang, boom, like he was bit by a spider, then this happened, that's our story. It's like, how many pages total? I think it's like 8, 9, 10,
he gets bit by
11 pages.
He gets bit by the spider in the third page, if you're counting like the splash page.
Yeah.
And then like he's instantly fighting the wrestler.
Yeah.
Like it happens immediately.
It's like 6 panels are him figuring out his superpowers. It's like, I can climb this wall, I can squeeze this pipe.
I'm 15 years old, I'm a human spider, I'm gonna go fight the biggest guy I could find for money. Which I get the money part, but like it immediately goes to I'm gonna fight somebody.
That's one thing I noticed reading in this issue and more of the issues. We'll talk about it as we get into other ones. Like, Peter Parker's not... He's weird in these early issues.
He's not nice.
He's not nice. He's kind of a little prick, like, to be honest with you.
He's a big one. And this made me immediately think of, like, rereading these. For whatever reason, I didn't notice when I was a kid, but rereading these now, like, I've watched a lot of reviews of, like, the Amazing Spider-Man movie, and everyone says that the actual Spider-Man character is a prick, too much of a prick, and that's not like him. But literally, it's like the exact way he is in these early issues.
That is exactly, yeah, because the whole point is that he's just like this quiet nerd, but then he comes out as like this arrogant.
No, yeah, he is like pompous.
Yeah, 100%. But that's also, crazy. I love the way that Stan Lee depicts bullying, because it's not like, oh, he's getting bullied and he's like sad about it. Peter's just like, oh, screw off, Flash. Like, you're a big meathead. Like, he talks back to him. Like, he's not shy about it.
No. But it is not how these early issues, like, are complete opposites. What I feel like regular people on the street will like think they know Spider-Man. They read these early issues is like the complete opposite.
Right. That's where I think I saw someone say it online. Like, we have yet to actually see a 1-for-1 adaptation of the like Stan Lee, Steve Ditko Spider-Man in the movies.
Yep. Yeah.
Because this Peter Parker, I mean, he's got the Harry Potter glasses. He's got the sweater vest. He wears a tie to school. He wears a tie to school, and he's like super, super nerd. I mean, we've always seen Peter as smart in the movies. But, I mean, in Amazing Spider-Man, he was riding around on a skateboard. Tobey Maguire Spider-Man was probably the closest we got. But even he wasn't quite this nerdy. And, I mean, this is back in the 60s, so take it for what you will. But
the main thing is, like, he's not nice, and he's very selfish.
Oh, 100%.
And I mean, I guess that's the whole point, right? That's the whole thing you're trying to like learn in the first issue is like if you have a responsibility to do something, like the whole thing. We all know it. But even in like 1, 2, and 3, which we'll get to, he didn't really learn his lesson.
He did not. I thought the exact same thing. It's not like, oh, his Uncle Ben died and now he knows, like, great power comes with great responsibility. Because immediately in issue 1 of Amazing Spider-Man, which we'll dive into in a second, he's immediately going right back to like, okay, how can I use this to make money?
No, literally. I know like, for me reading it, there's like just a literal page where it's like, okay, now he understands. Like, I think he's actually kind of like growing into how we know him now today, but it's not till like the 4th issue.
Right.
And this, like, I was reading the first dude, like, damn, I almost don't like him.
He's not like, very likable in the beginning.
But it's very, like, I don't know. To me, it's because whenever I think about Spider-Man nowadays, and you hear people talk about him, it's like that. You talk about Peter Parker and how like selfless he is, and how like amazing of a person he is, and how like everyone should look up to how he is. Mm-hmm. And then you go and you make you're a prick to somebody, and you're like, damn, man, I can never live up. Like, that's just an unrealistic person. And then I read this and I'm like, wait a minute, this makes sense.
Yeah. And it's a bit of, I guess that's his character arc over time, which we'll see that as we go through the series. But yeah, in the beginning, I mean, he was arrogant. He was selfish. He was not like this selfless hero that he's painted up to be.
And a lot of people say like, oh, Peter Parker's just so unlucky. He's just an unlucky guy. He can't catch a break. There was many breaks he caught in the early issues, and like he made his situation worse with the decision he made.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's mostly the first, like, including like AF-15, like the first 4 issues, especially.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to see because we get to really, these early issues are where you see amateur Spider-Man. Because later on, as you get through the series, you start to see, like, as he gets more experience, he starts to feel that weight on his shoulders, and when he makes mistakes, you see it grind on him more. Yeah. But this is just like, he doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, he's just in over his head. Couple of takeaways I had from Amazing Fantasy 15 in regards to the art. Steve Ditko deserves all the credit in the world. He's co-creator of Spider-Man. Some of this art is not good. Some of it is iconic, and it all fits the classic vibe. But if you go to the page, the first panel of part 2,
hold on now.
You can flip to it right now. I've got it open here. I'll maybe put it up on the screen for the video. That man's leg is broken.
Yeah, that is that ain't correct.
That man's leg is broken. And honestly, the worst offender for me is if you go to 2 pages after that. It's listed as page 9 in the bottom right.
I know exactly what you're going to be talking about.
That top panel, that middle Spider-Man.
With the eyes?
That art, not the eyes, but just look at his anatomy. Look at his hand. Like, it looks like if I tried to draw it.
Oh, when he's on the wall? Crawling on the wall?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah, that's... Yeah, he has like a... I don't know if it is like what you're seeing now, but he has like a triangle finger.
Yeah, he has 3 fingers.
Wait, he has 3 fingers?
His leg, like, anatomy is wrong. It's just not good. I mean, I love Steve Ditko, and he draws great faces. I mean, the panel right below that has Peter and the cop, and it looks awesome.
Right.
But that shot of Spider-Man on the wall, I was like, oh my gosh, you could not do that in comic books today. I mean, you would get like,
no,
absolutely just.
We all know about Roberto Ramos.
Yeah, I mean, there's some artists today that I don't like, but that is on that level, in my opinion.
And we're not trying to flame Ditko, obviously.
Oh, he has a legacy that speaks for itself. I mean, He literally created the costume. Speaking of art in this issue, what I love, and you really see it in this issue, and I remember hearing this fact because a lot of people were criticizing the Tom Holland Spider-Man costume that's red and black. Spider-Man's costume was originally red and black.
Yeah.
The blue,
and I like that.
The
I
blue
like
was lighting.
It was.
That was like, it was red and black, and the blue was accents to show lighting and show like 3 dimensions. And people thought that the costume was blue, and that's why they later made it red and blue.
Mm-hmm.
So this was one of those few issues.
You know, I like the red and black look.
No, it's a good look, yeah. Because red and blue is like super colorful. I mean, it's iconic now.
Right.
I mean, we've got the red and blue on screen right now in the overlay, but I like the red and black suit. I like it in the MCU, and I really liked it in this issue. But,
yeah, I just like reading like when he doesn't stop the burglar. Like, sorry, pal, that's your job. Like, it's not even in like in the Raimi verse where like he kind of had a reason to be like, you know, I missed the part where that's my problem.
Yeah, he was pissed off at the guy.
Right. He was just straight up like, yeah, no, that's your job.
Yeah.
You're a cop. Go ahead.
He's walking off. I love Steve Ditko's art is good on the panel where he's walking away. He looks nice and sassy. He's like, save your breath, buddy. I've got more important things to do. Like, he's a little asshole. Like, I'm just going to say it. Like, yeah, he's not. And then I love the old Stan Lee dialogue. Like, Aunt May and Uncle Ben give him his microscope. Gosh, that's terrific. Like, he's such a little nerd.
He's such a little nerd.
You're the greatest family any fella ever had.
And then he's dead in the next like panel.
My one thing that definitely we see in a lot of these old comics is that like 60s slang and different words they use for stuff.
Yeah, I had to like look up half the stuff sometimes reading these issues because it's like I don't know what they're saying.
One of my favorite moments in this issue is when he on the page where he's got bit by the spider and he's realizing his powers. There's a car that drives by and he dodges out of the way of it. Stan Lee describes it. He says, wrapped in his thoughts, Peter doesn't hear the auto, which narrowly misses him. They abbreviated automobile as auto.
Also, they abbreviate.
Never hear that today.
They abbreviate pics. Like, he doesn't say pictures at all. It's just pic.
Yeah. Which people say that today, but not like as much.
PIX. You don't see it PIX.
Yeah, it's PICS now.
So
Pix, auto. I mean, who would ever refer to a car today as an auto?
nobody.
Like, there goes that auto. No, it's a car. But back in the 60s, it's that auto drives past. I thought that really stuck out to me as like, whoa, this is a time capsule of different time. Yes. But overall thoughts on Amazing Fantasy 15. It's obviously super simple, but it's an iconic story.
It if it wasn't as simple, it wouldn't be as a classic, is it?
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly what it needs to be. I mean, you can't criticize it because it is. This story was so iconic that readers loved it so much that it literally made them create a series for it.
Right. I'm pretty sure, like, at the end, it was like, you know, he'll be back, but in the Amazing Fantasy. Yeah, it says in the next issue of Amazing Fantasy for different Teenage Idol Spider-Man.
Which
different Teenage Idol Spider-Man. But then it was his own issue. And
Amazing Fantasy 15 was the last issue of Amazing Fantasy.
Yeah.
Because famously, and everybody knows this story, I won't dive into it, but Amazing Fantasy was getting canceled. Stan Lee wanted to write Spider-Man, but the publisher was like, no, it's a terrible idea. You can't make a superhero that's a teenager. That's stupid. So he just threw it in here, and then it was so popular with readers that the publisher was like, oh, we should make a series for this. And Stan Lee kind of got his win that way. But from there, we're not going to talk about the second story in Amazing Fantasy. We're not going to talk about the Bell Ringer. Is that even in the omnibus, the Bell Ringer?
What are you talking? No, I didn't even read that.
In Amazing Fantasy 15, there's 2 other stories in it. There's the Bell Ringer, which is about some guy in a lighthouse, and then there's a story about a mummy.
Yeah, no, that's not me.
Yeah, because they printed multiple stories.
I didn't even know that. That's actually, I never even knew that.
Yeah, they have backstories in there. Because I realized I was flipping through, because I read all of my comics on Marvel Unlimited. It's digital comics, $10 a month, has all of them.
You sponsored or something?
I'm not sponsored, but that's how I read it. I recommend it. If you want to read along, that's how you can do it. JP doesn't like digital comics, but this has literally every single issue, and that's how I read through it. But
at one point, I will have no choice but to read them from there.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's super easy. It's like $10 a month. You scroll through, has them all. That's how I've read them. I read them at work. I read them on my phone. Don't tell my boss. But so from there, It was so
Minus one.
popular, they gave him his own series. Amazing Spider-Man issue number 1. Now, here's where there was a big time jump. Amazing Fantasy came out in June. Amazing Spider-Man 1 came out December 10th, 1962.
Is it still 1962?
Still 1962. That one surprised me because I thought it was... Because on the cover date is March.
Okay.
But it was released in December. Now, that's always happened in comics. The cover date is never right.
Right.
It's never right.
Would that be just when the cover was done? Or what?
No, I think because they were mailing out a lot of comics, maybe they weren't always getting out, or I honestly don't know. But even to this day, you look at the like cover dates; they're not on the cover anymore. But if you go on the first page, it'll say like
right,
a date.
Yeah.
It's never right. I don't know why, but so December 10th, 1962. Now, Amazing Spider-Man 1, aside from being the first issue in his series, key issues for this is the first appearance of John Jameson and the first appearance of J. Jonah Jameson.
Yes, getting right into those two big characters. Obviously, J. Jonah Jameson is pretty much like the main villain in like
He is.
these early issues.
Yeah.
I mean, just full blown.
He's in every single issue. Every one.
I remember when I first read this issue, Amazing Spider-Man 1, like when I was a kid, I was surprised to see his son in the first issue. I thought he would have been like a character that came way later.
Yeah.
But he's like right in there.
And obviously he becomes more relevant later on.
Yes.
But yeah, he's right there as the astronaut in this story. So I guess I'll do the summary for this issue. We'll alternate issues. First of all, this cover is beautiful. I love this cover. Iconic cover. Fantastic Four on there. They used them to sell the book because Fantastic Four was all the rage in the early 60s. And it has a lot more blue in his costume. I think this is when they kind of pivoted towards the red and blue.
Yeah, it's a lot more.
But inside the comic, it's mostly red and black, so I don't know.
It's actually more red and black, at least when you go to like the first page. At least, again, what I'm looking at, and, in the actual issue, it could be different with just coloring and stuff.
Right. I mean, in the digital, it's entirely red and black.
Yeah, there's like no blue highlights.
Yeah, so maybe maybe they realized people were thinking it was blue, and they were like, we gotta show it as all black. But it comes blue later. But so summary for this issue, obviously it starts off by summarizing his origin. So that's what we just read. But it kind of goes over bit by a spider, shot by a burglar, Uncle Ben dies, realizes he needs to use it responsibly. But then he's back in school getting bullied, using it to perform and make money, using his powers. And that's where we said he kind of doesn't learn his lesson at all.
At all.
Because he immediately goes back to show business and he's like, I'm going to use this to make money. Until enter J. Jonah Jameson, who
I do want to go
drags
back
this guy.
I want to go back. First off, I actually don't like this cover as much as most people do.
What?
It just doesn't do it for me.
Oh, I think it's so iconic.
It's iconic. No, it is. But I don't know. It's just not like... I don't know. It just doesn't tickle my fancy as much. There's just a lot going on. I don't know. That's just me. I don't know. Flame me for it. It's a hot take.
Yeah, comment down below on YouTube if you... I mean, I know there's going to be some people disagreeing with you on that.
Oh, for sure. But I'm like J. Jonah Jameson. I'm just going to make news just so like people watch this. I actually hate Spider-Man.
Oh my god, yeah.
I'm a big Batman guy. No. But Uncle Ben gets shot in his house. It was a house robbery.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that till I didn't even remember that when I first read it.
Yeah.
He gets shot on the side of the street, like you see in the movies and everything. He gets shot in his house.
Yeah, just randomly breaks in and just shoots a guy.
Trying to rob the house
for no reason.
Robbery gone wrong.
Yeah.
Shot. I'm looking at May. Horrified.
She witnessed the whole thing.
For real. And where was Parker?
Okay. Aunt May does not seem traumatized enough for having witnessed her husband of presumably 50 plus years just getting murdered in front of her.
Yeah, she got over it kind of quick, huh?
Yeah, almost immediately she's like, hey Peter, I got some wheat cakes. She just does not even care at all.
Also, she is very fragile in these issues.
She's old.
Very old.
She's gotten younger as the years have gone on.
No, she definitely has. I don't even know. Is she even still alive in the early issues?
She's alive in recent issues. Yeah.
How is that possible?
She died and then came back.
Well, yeah, she died in 400. I know that.
It's comic books. You know how it is.
Right, of course. Well, I just wanted to go back and say those two things. First off, you mentioned it. I'm not as big of a fan of the cover as you, and the fact that he was shot in his house was surprising to me.
Yeah. But that is yeah. Aunt May is a lot old and frail and very doting. I think the most accurate movie version of Aunt May is the Raimi trilogy.
Even then, she's like a lot. She has her wits about her a lot more in the movie.
Yeah. This
She does not have her wits about her.
This is classic '60s grandma, like super naive. Really, she's just what a lovely lady. But
she's doting, of course, as
she
is called.
Yeah, very doting.
Very doting.
But as the issue goes on, kind of shows their money troubles, shows that Aunt May is needing money, Peter's getting desperate to pay the bills, and for a minute, this is what we're talking about, for a minute he considers stealing money.
Yes.
He literally goes through an entire thought process like, aha, I can steal money, that'll be the answer.
And he's like, no, if I go to jail, Aunt May's going to be upset about that. Like,
it's not even moral conundrums at all. He's just like, oh, I could get arrested. That would suck. Anyway, what else can I do?
What else can I do? I'll just go back to, doing some TV shows and stuff.
Yeah, so he does the TV shows. Then J. Jonah Jameson comes out of nowhere and for some reason decides to hate him. I know they dive into this later in the comic book, so maybe we'll get to that point at some point.
Right.
But he decides to hate him and he writes an article, says Spider-Man's a menace, he should be run out of town, and just like that, he's out of show business. He can't do the shows anymore, so he doesn't even stop the shows because of moral reasons.
No.
He stops them because he doesn't have an option, he can't do it anymore. I think he even says in the issue, he's like, what am I going to do now? I can't make money this way. Still not a hero.
No, he's not a hero. He's just a kid looking to use his newfound abilities for financial gain.
Yeah.
That's what we're reading. We're not reading a superhero magazine right now. That is what we're reading.
Yeah. And the saddest part, this is kind of the end of part 1 of this issue, Aunt May selling her jewelry to pay the bills.
Yes.
Breaks my heart. She's such a lovely lady.
So, anybody in this position in the real world would be doing what he's doing right now, trying to make money off of it, let's be honest.
Right.
You would, I would. But it's just more shocking because everyone thinks of him as, so selfless.
Yeah.
Such a hero, and he's just not in this issue.
I think that's what makes him relatable. I mean, that's everyone when they talk about Spider-Man, they say he's relatable. That's kind of his selling point. And that's like you said, this is what we would be doing. I mean, people have money problems, people have life problems, and if we got superpowers, we would use them to fix those problems.
Yeah, he's not a bad person for doing this, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's clearly just desperate.
Right.
He's in a tough situation. His uncle just died. His aunt's not able to pay the bills, and he's desperate. And, as we kind of watch his arc go, we see him be able to solve those problems without, going to criminal and stealing. But so part 2 of this issue is when it's the space rocket launch. Now, one thing that I just got such a kick out of this part, and this really dates Stan Lee's knowledge of science, is what I'll say. The rocket launch, the capsule comes out of control, and they're trying to figure out how to land it. And these NASA scientists' solution is to drop a net out of the sky to catch the capsule. Now, this is laughable for a couple of reasons. One, how the heck is that going to work? And 2, this is a rocket. How did they get a net ahead? What did they drop it from?
That's what I'm saying. Did they explain how they got that
They
up there?
don't explain it at all. Literally all he says is, acting with desperate speed, the space technicians attempt to drop a steel net to catch the capsule.
Oh, they were acting with desperate speed, that's why.
Yeah, that's why. The desperate speed kind of carried them there.
Just like when he, again, love Stanley, of course, but he explains a lot of things in, I quote, for some strange reason, or some strange way.
Mm-hmm. A little bit of vagueness kind of carries his stories.
I mean, I couldn't do any better, that's for sure.
But I thought it was hilarious. I mean, it's just all these scientists in general is like, what are we going to do? Let's drop a net and capture the capsule. Unsurprisingly doesn't work.
You can very much tell that these early issues, I'm going to say these early issues so many times. If you want a drinking game, you're shot every time I say that, you'll be on the floor. But in these early issues, these are written for kids.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
These
100%.
are not like nowadays. They're written for like 40-year-olds.
Yeah, they're written
These
for
are
kind of
written-
everybody.
These are right. These are literally written for kids.
Yeah.
And it shows, and it's pretty great.
Oh, it's fantastic. And I mean, the story is super. Back in those days, it was action scenes, and the story was just there to like accent the action scenes.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny just how they're like, oh, look at him climb up the wall. Like, the most basic, like nowadays in Spider-Man comics, you have these deep stories, and he's just climbing the wall in the background. But now it's like, and then he climbs across the wire as if he were a spider. Like,
These issues do help my simple brain because some of the new issues, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. This is so complicated that I don't even know what's going on. This is like, I can follow this.
Yeah.
I can follow this.
well, and I love how, like, apparently in comic books, people just narrate their own actions.
I know, it's pretty great.
Like,
Like there's like something that would happen in like a split second. He's like, oh my God, he's doing this. So I'll have to do this and I'll do this really quickly. It's
Well,
like,
even just talking aloud, like, he'll be like, I've got to reach the missile control center the fastest way. The way only Spider-Man can. Like, the most
great.
corny dialogue. Like, if you did that in a movie, it would be the worst movie ever written.
I would like it.
But, I mean, it holds up. But he hijacks a plane. You wonder why JJ thinks he's a menace. He hijacks a plane, goes and saves the space capsule. So this was the first time, other than catching the burglar. Well, catching the burglar was pretty kind of vengeance. So this is the first time he acts heroically, I would say.
Right. But again, it's not like this is not just his defining moment as a hero. This is not when he's like, oh yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do what's right. He does this to save somebody, which is great. It's a great thing to do, but then he goes right back to his old ways.
I also completely forgot he did this for the publicity.
Yeah, I read this issue like last week, so you're gonna have to
I'm
remind me
pretty
about
sure
that.
it says in the issue. I don't remember exactly where, but I'm pretty sure he's like, oh, if I save that space capsule,
Yeah, no,
then
you're right.
Jonah will, forgive me and I'll be able to perform again. So I guess he's starting to do the right thing for the wrong reasons. We're seeing his hero's journey. He's going along the path. But the end of the first story is that J. Jonah does not forgive him. And he just doubles down on him being a menace. And he's like, how am I going to perform now? What am I going to do?
Jonah's like, he did this on purpose.
Yeah.
That's what he said. He's like, you did this on purpose to like take the glory away from my son.
Which he didn't, but in a way, he did do it for the good publicity. So he's not entirely wrong. But yeah, so ultimately, we have not seen his heroic arc yet.
We have not.
But the second storyline in this issue is really the more noteworthy one, and I totally forgot to mention it in the key issues. First appearance of the Chameleon.
The first real Spider-Man villain is the
First real
Chameleon.
Spider-Man. Not many people would guess that.
No.
Like, if you asked someone who had only seen the movies, you said, who in the comic books was the first Spider-Man villain, they would probably say Green Goblin, Dr.
Well,
Octopus.
Mysterio, of course, right?
Yeah, like, it's the Chameleon of all. The villain that has still not been done in a movie was the first Spider-Man villain. And oh my gosh, his classic look with those goggles and the slits for eyes and like the weird mask. Just absolutely silly. But this
Is he
issue...
shown like that? Okay, no, he's shown like that a couple times. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the splash page right now, which this is some great Steve Ditko art. You've got the big Chameleon and Spider-Man kind of swinging towards him. But this issue starts with Peter being like, I'm going to join the Fantastic Four. Surely they'll want me to join. Let me go break in and bless them with my presence. He's so arrogant.
But why does he do that? Because he thinks they have a salary.
He's doing it for money. Exactly.
He's not like, oh, I'm going to join them so I can help them save people and save the universe, save the world. No, he's like, they must have a salary.
He's like, surely they pay. Let me just swing on over there. They'll want to hire me. And then as soon as... And this is kind of where it really paints Spider-Man as this lone wolf. Like, he's not really a team player. Because as soon as they... I mean, he fights them. And then as soon as they're like, whoa, buddy, we're not hiring you. We don't pay you. He's like, all right, peace out then. I'm gone. I don't need you. And he just leaves. Whatever. I mean, I don't know what...
I mean, obviously that was just, it's quick. It's a quick, little appearance of Fantastic Four. And like you said, it was probably to sell the book a little bit, but it really does show you the mindset in which Peter slash Spider-Man is in
Yeah.
in this issue.
And it's kind
He's
of
just
self-serving.
it's fully.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's not a criticism. I think we see his arc, but this is where, so going from there, then it cuts to the Chameleon, who's planning his big heist. I think he's what is he, working with Russian spies in this issue? I don't even know. Yeah. So, it's the 60s. You're going to have some Russian spies in there. It's not the first time, or not the last time it happens. But he poses as Spider-Man for the heist, so that kind of frames him. So Spider-Man doesn't even get involved in this for heroic reasons. He gets in it to clear his name.
Clear his name, yeah. Literally, like I said, this is like he does heroic things. Just the aspect of wanting to save people is like the 5th or 6th reason he's doing something right now.
Yeah.
Again, like I feel like we're just not even reading a superhero story right now. We're reading someone just taking it day by day, you know?
Which, I mean, let's be realistic. That would be a teenager with superpowers.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I actually rather it this way. This is like actually like...
Yeah, teenagers are not selfless. Teenagers are selfish, and that I think it paints the picture of an irresponsible teenager. These are his high school years, and I think that's kind of an important thing to dive into. But then Spider-Man shows up and sees Chameleon fleeing. He goes to like a Russian helicopter and escapes. And then ultimately, he captures him, but then he escapes again and poses as Spider-Man looking for him, and then he poses as a police officer. And I think this is the first time we really see his spider sense in action.
I think it is, yep.
Because he uses his spider sense to catch Chameleon, and then that's the end of the issue. So I love this issue. It's kind of... I don't know. It doesn't hold up as well as some of the other issues, I think.
It's definitely a weaker one.
Yeah.
In the first 6 issues, or his first 6 appearances.
Yeah.
But again, it does its job. It's continuing the narrative. But yeah, it's on the weaker side.
Yeah, and that's where I think the important thing, I mean, we see his arc, right? The first issue, he's just trying to go make money fighting. His Uncle Ben dies, doesn't really learn his lesson. This issue, he's continuing to try to figure out how he can make money. He tries to clear his name. You know, he's acting out of selfish reasons. He has yet to really realize the responsibility that he has. But
Which would be so interesting to be reading these issues when they came out, and I guess in 1962, 1963, because like, and I guess maybe if you're like a kid, which again these are targeted to, you aren't really thinking like, wow, this guy's really selfish. You're probably just thinking like, oh my god, it's like action scenes and Spider-Man. But like,
right.
If you were to see how selfish this guy, or not selfish, I mean, again, he's not necessarily a bad guy for what he's doing. It's very realistic. I'm not saying he's a bad person.
Right.
It's like he's not a hero. He's not.
That's why it's so different than everything else they were publishing at the time.
Yeah.
Because you look, I mean, I don't know what else was out in 62. I know Fantastic Four was, maybe Iron Man and Hulk and them were around. But, I mean, the traditional superhero, I mean, you go look at DC Comics and it was all just like, I am the perfect human being and I fight for good and justice and this, that, the other. And this was just like, what happens if a selfish, arrogant teenager gets superpowers?
Like you said, it's really, I think it fed off a lot of the, it's just relatable.
Yeah.
You know, to the people, so.
And I think that's what kind of skyrocketed his popularity. But that is where, going from issue 1, that was in December 1962. This is the part that blew my mind, because I don't know why, for some reason in my mind, I thought that these issues were all monthly. Amazing Spider-Man issue number 2. So if you were reading these back in 1962, you picked up issue 1 in 1962, December, you had to wait until February 12th, 1963, was when issue 2 came out.
Yes. Finally into 1963.
Yeah, now it's 1963, so that's where I thought all of them were. But this one, cover month is May, but this came out in February. So,
right.
A little bit of a delay there. But this is, of course, the first appearance of the Vulture, who was famously in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Is really when things start kicking off.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, we got through the first 2 issues, we got through his origin, and we got through his first, ever self-titled issue, which, again, if it's your number 1, it's probably not going to be the most grand thing back then. He's still like, how many people are just reading Amazing Spider-Man 1 for the first time and didn't read AF-15.
Probably,
So,
probably a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people. So they probably just had to like get people up to speed.
Yeah.
For the first issue, and that's why there wasn't much going on compared to what we're going to talk about next.
This is where they kind of dive into like proper stories.
Right, exactly.
Now, not only is this first appearance of Vulture, this is also the first appearance of Betty Brant.
And
she's not named in this issue, but she appears in the issue.
I can't believe you're forgetting the best villain of all time, the terrible Tinkerer.
Yeah, first appearance of the Tinkerer. And also, this is the first time that he uses his belt camera.
Yeah.
And when he has his utility belt.
Yep.
Which not a lot of people realize. Spider-Man has a utility belt.
Gosh.
That's straight out of Batman. He has a utility belt.
Right under his clothes.
But I love that inclusion because we're watching him start to become a superhero. Like
exactly, yeah.
In this issue, he's like, oh, well, now I can build a utility belt. And then as we go on, next issue, he gets the spider signal, and we'll talk about that later.
there is a storyline. Even though these are meant for kids, like, they connect in each way. He's like, oh, well, I'm not doing shows anymore, so I guess I'll have to, like, get a belt because I'm not, I actually need extra web fluid and stuff like that if I'm out there doing these type of things.
Yeah. But if you want to kick us off with a quick summary of this issue.
Of course.
Walk us through it.
So, first appearance of the Vulture. It is the first, so this is a two-part story. One's going to be the Vulture. One's the terrible Tinkerer. And so the Vulture is, in my opinion, other than the Chameleon, he's really the first big baddie. Like, he's the one that stuck the most.
Yeah.
He's the first one that actually reappears for the first time.
That's true, yeah.
So we see the first appearance of one of his more popular villains. And again, like you said, we continue to see his growth as a superhero through this issue. You see some crazy different things with the Tinkerer and aliens. So the world of Spider-Man really starts to evolve in this issue. And the world of the, 616, right? Is what we're in right now?
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But really, there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. First of all, what I gotta say, I think the Vulture's design is where I gotta give Steve Ditko a ton of props.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Because the Vulture is iconic. I love how his head even, like, he looks like a vulture.
Yeah,
like it's this old guy with a bald head, pointy nose. Like the pointy nose is just like creepy, and that's one thing that I wish they had done for Spider-Man: Homecoming is, the actor had him be a little older and have that like pointy nose and things like that. But the green costume is iconic, the wings, and it just captured the people's imagination in the '60s. I love all the narration of the people on the street, like, how does he fly? He's like a bird, like.
No sound.
No sound. He silently flies. And they always explain the science of their villains. They're like, oh, he flies with magnets. It's like, well, how does that work? Well, it just does.
Well, it's some strange way it works. So
yeah. Magic.
Deal with it.
But
I love his hideout.
His hideout in the silo, yeah.
Yes, I love that. It's right outside the city. Really makes you feel like you're there, honestly, because like you can see the city skyscraper. I'm looking at the panel where like he's flying out of the silo. Like, just think about it. Like, you're a New Yorker, and there's like off in the distance, you got the silos. There's some like farm over there, and out comes this old man in a bird costume stealing your riches.
Yeah, that's the part. That's the part that really dates it for me, because that silo, it's like on a farm, and it says in the narration that that's on Staten Island.
Yeah.
There's no silos on Staten Island anymore.
Nowadays, there's not. No.
Yeah, so that's where it's like, wow, this is the 60s. But
it's really cool.
It's really cool, and I love how, like, this is him now being like, okay, how can I make money? Well, I'll take pictures of the Vulture, and that's why he goes out. Now, one interesting thing about this is further appearances of J. Jonah Jameson. My immediate thing that I noticed when I read this is the building says J. Jonah Jameson Publishing, and it's Now Magazine. There is no mention of the Daily Bugle.
Nope, not in this one. It's Now Magazine. There is no Daily Bugle. And again, our hero goes to find the Vulture to make money.
Yeah.
It is not to stop him from possibly hurting people, from robbing people. It is to take pictures of him and to make a, and I quote, small fortune. Which, again, I don't knock the guy for it.
Yeah.
But he is still not the selfless Spider-Man.
Like he's not entirely trying to make money for selfish reasons. Like he wants to support Aunt May and things like that.
No, it's not. I don't. He's not like I'm gonna go make money so I can, even if he was like I'm gonna go buy a house or a new car for myself. Like that's not even that really. I mean,
right.
He's got the power. Why not? Right.
As long as he's not stealing the money.
Right. Exactly. Which he thought about, but he shook it off real quick. That was in later issues though.
Yeah.
Or 4 issues. Vulture literally is so super villain in this issue. It is incredible. He warns everybody that he's going to steal so much money before he even steals the money.
I love it.
Absolutely amazing.
He's playing 4D chess.
I know. He throws what is it? Like a rock with a note on it, or
yeah,
a baseball,
it's like a baseball or something.
It's a rock. You can see it in his hand.
Oh yeah. He's like,
I
will steal
the
it.
Diamonds. I shall steal the diamond shipment under your noses. The Vulture.
What a just villain. He's just like, I will steal it and you can't stop me. And then he does outsmart them. I love the way he steals it. It's really clever.
I love that so much.
Now, first of all, their first encounter with Spider-Man gets his butt kicked. He literally just flies a loop, kicks him in the head, knocks him out, and tosses him in a, what's it called? Water tower.
Water tower, yeah.
And
what's the thing? I mean, Peter Parker really doesn't know how to fight. I mean, he's got the super strength, he's got the senses, he got the speed and everything, but he's not a martial artist. You know what I mean? So he's still learning to fight.
Yep. That's exactly, like, you get to see him, like, realizing, like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, he gets his butt kicked, and he's, you would not see the Spider-Man today struggle to get out of a water tower.
No, it would be immediate.
Yeah.
He wouldn't even be in there in the first place.
Yeah, but this is the inexperienced amateur. He's like, what can I do? My webs won't work. Oh, I don't know. Oh, I can jump. And so this is you're seeing amateur Spider-Man.
He didn't even go out there looking for a fight. He went out there to just take some pictures, and then the Vulture saw him, swooped around, and kicked him in the head.
Kicked his teeth in, yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, his camera was not broken, though, so he's able to develop it and get those pictures, and he builds his utility belt and goes back out to fight.
Also, whenever Peter has the suit on and he takes the mask off, he looks like a Chad, bro. Straight up.
He does.
And then when he's in, like, his regular Peter Parker garb, he's the nerd again.
Yeah.
Which I love. That's great. It's very, like, Clark Kent.
He has the Clark Kent hair curl.
He does. Yes, he does.
So he's got the iconic look. But, yeah, so then, of course, Vulture commits the heist. I love how he just pops up out of the sewer. That's so just clever and funny.
It's great.
I don't know how he's flying around in the sewer, but apparently he can do it.
It's the magnets.
But this is where, again, Spider-Man doing the right thing for the wrong reason. He's like, oh, I'll go get the Vulture now so I can get pictures of him. And goes and catches him from the heist, and he ties him. He creates a gadget. This is where we start to see Peter's intelligence. He creates a gadget to counteract Vulture's flying, and that's how he's able to stop him.
Right, he knew. He was like, I think now I'm thinking about it, this guy's using magnets. How do you know that? Guy's just a genius.
Right. So we get to see him flex his brain a little bit, and this is where he gets his first big win. He beats the Vulture, and he gets the pictures, so he gets the money. And I think he mentions that he pays, like a year's rent?
Yeah, a year's rent from those pictures.
That's pretty sweet.
That's a small fortune.
That is a small fortune. But oddly enough, his money problems aren't solved, because then next issue he's like complaining about money again. But
yeah, that's an interesting thing too, which I don't think you'd be able to really grasp from like these issues necessarily. But like from AF-15 to now in this world, how much time has gone by? I don't really think you'd be able to like exactly pinpoint that, but that's an interesting thing that I'd love to.
Yeah. Presumably not much.
Yeah, I mean, but you read these issues, it's like the next day, like things happen like, in the next morning. So like time's passing pretty fast.
Yeah.
Or faster than you'd imagine. So it's probably a couple weeks.
That's the thing about comics. They can't get too specific about dates, because then, this character's existed for 60 years and it's like.
Yeah. Which is, okay. This is something that really, and then I'm going to go off tangent just for real quick. This is the same Spider-Man that's living in issue 809, almost 900 now, right?
Almost 900, yeah.
That's like, I don't know, that's like really cool. It's going to be really cool to like get to the older issues and like be like, we are really seeing the growth of this guy.
That's my biggest thing that I'm like looking for reading through these issues, is like watching the growth of his character and the world around him.
Yeah, I'm a big Spider-Man guy. I haven't read much other superhero stuff, but what I have, even the earlier issues, like I haven't read many first appearances, and I guess I know you have, so you can like correct me on this, but it seems like they just get right into being a hero, and they like know what they're doing, and everything's just going on, and it's like issue 1, first appearance, I am the guy.
Yep.
Not the case with this guy.
Not at all.
And I really like it.
Figures that out as he goes.
I really like it, and it's exciting to it's like I'm actually excited to continue reading these books and like see that development.
Yeah, see how he kind of grows. You're absolutely right. Like the first appearance that I read most recently was first appearance of Thor, and like first page, it's like Donald Blake finds this staff, and now he can become Thor, and he immediately knows how to use the hammer. He knows that if he taps it twice on the ground, it'll create a storm, and if he taps it 3 times, it'll do this. And then all of a sudden, these aliens show up, and he's like, "I will vanquish the aliens!" Like super cheesy stuff. Whereas this is just like he's just a guy getting through life, and stuff just keeps happening around him.
Kid.
Yeah, he's a kid.
15.
But that's where the second story with the Tinkerer, honestly, the Vulture story is my favorite one out of this issue.
Yes.
But the Tinkerer one is great.
The Tinkerer one is insane.
Now, I love that this issue has Vulture and Tinkerer because Spider-Man Homecoming has Vulture and Tinkerer. I love how they did that.
I also like how they're both old men.
Yeah.
Just 15-year-old fighting like 60-year-old men in this issue. It's great.
Yeah. But this one is where, the doctor hires him to go pick up his radio and then do some experiments with him. And he goes to the Tinkerer's shop. And this one just really takes a thematic change where all of a sudden it's like, and there's aliens.
Aliens. So I was reading this issue and I was like, I think I'm getting it mixed up with the first Mysterio appearance. Because I feel like there were aliens in that, and obviously it was a Mysterio thing. So I was waiting for them to like be humans in alien costumes for some reason, and that didn't happen. And I was like, "Are we kidding?"
Straight up aliens.
That was a straight up alien in my ASM too.
Which, this feels so out of place in Spider-Man comics because Spider-Man does not really deal with a lot of aliens. He doesn't deal with like cosmic threats that much. He does a little bit, but this is just like so weird. Like you just turn and there's a Martian there working on a radio, and you're like, where is this coming from? Like, we're dealing with Martians now? Like, what?
Straight up Martian.
But, hey, I mean, he's becoming a superhero. You gotta stop some aliens from conquering the Earth because, that's all aliens want to do.
Even if I was like a superhero and I got bit by a spider and I have these superpowers, which is crazy, and it's like, wow, like what else can happen in this world that I don't know about? But if I saw aliens, I knew there were aliens, I'd have to like think about that a little bit. He just doesn't really. He's like, wow, those were aliens. That's crazy.
Yeah, doesn't even give it a second thought at all.
Yeah. I would have to sit down with myself and think about the world as I know it. He's just like, all right.
Especially he's like a scientist. You would think there would be some pondering to happen there. I do love how he catches on to them. Like his spider sense tips him off to the electrical currents, like in the machine. It seems like his spider sense is capable of a lot more than it is later on.
That's another thing. Take a shot, everybody. In these early issues, it's just like he pretty much is like he knows everything. Yeah. Anything he wants to know, he knows through his spider sense.
Yeah. If we need him to figure out something, spider sense. I'm pretty sure in a later issue he uses it to track somebody.
Yeah. And all of his villains seemingly know he has his spider sense somehow. They're like, oh, that's why he knows.
Yeah, that happens. I know exactly what you're referencing.
Yes. Well, I mean, okay, when we get to it, obviously he's not just any other villain that we're referencing. But.
Yeah. But man, continuing the cheesy '60s dialogue, I'm looking at the page where he's fighting the aliens. He's like, "It's not gonna be that easy, buddy boy."
Yeah.
I mean, that's just oh my gosh.
I love when he gets scared too in these issues. Like he's like, "Gee, golly whiz, man."
That's just classic corny comic books, but.
And on that same page as the buddy boy, he's like, the alien comes around the corner, sees Spider-Man, he's like, a spy.
A spy. We need to stop him. Design of these aliens is goofy. Their faces look ridiculous. I love how they trap him in a glass dome, and he's like, I gotta shoot my web through this tiny little hole, when their plan was to suffocate him, but there's a hole in the glass that he totally could have breathed through.
Right.
Not looking at it too deeply there. I don't know why they don't just like kill him.
Too tiny. maybe they want him for something. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, they're aliens. Maybe they want to like
Well,
see what he's
they
about.
literally say he must be destroyed. Let's put him in this tank and suffocate him. I'm like, why don't you just shoot him?
I do like the panel about the web shooters though.
Oh yeah, it, like shows the layout of the web shooter.
I don't know what it means by safety catch on,
I don't know.
but I get everything else.
Yeah, like a safety, like if you wanted to turn it off. I don't know.
Catch.
But
Well, I don't even know. It's pointing to the same thing as palm release button.
But yeah, this really dives into kind of what his web shooters are capable of. And he's able to break free, starts a fire, and then he takes the mask off and realizes the Tinkerer was an alien, and they all kind of escape and flee Earth. I love how the Doctor at the end's like, I swear I saw a spaceship. I'm going crazy. He's more taken aback than Peter, who actually fought aliens.
I will say this. This is very, very interesting that in this issue, he says almost the same thing that Peter said in Homecoming. He's like trying to save him. So like, I'm trying to save you. That literally happens in Homecoming where he's like pulling the Vulture back.
Oh yeah.
He's like, "What are you doing? I'm like, stop struggling, Tinker. I'm trying to save you." So he is trying to save the villain. Again, he's growing. You know, I guess this part two. Like, why did he go after the Tinkerer? It was more for a heroic reason.
It's a little bit more. He's like, something's going on here. Let me go check it out.
And I'm gonna figure what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
He's not quite like, I'm a hero. I fight for the good of people.
Right.
But he is a little like, something's going on there. Let me go check it out.
He's interested in what's going on. He's like, and then he wants to save the Tinkerer, even though like the guy tried to kill him.
Yeah. So we see, he's a good person. He's got a good heart.
Right. He's not a bad person.
The motives are evolving a little bit.
Right, exactly.
But overall, I mean, I love that issue. It's a classic. I forgot to show, in terms of our collections, we both have issue 2. So that's where...
Let me slightly flex.
Cherish this comic book. Yeah, slight flex there. Well, not a flex. We don't have Fantasy 15. There are people with better comic book collections than us. But signed by Stan Lee. This is my cherished prized possession. My oldest Spider-Man comic book. But from there, we dive into the next issue, which you already know this is one of my favorites. Amazing Spider-Man issue number 3.
Amazing.
This is an iconic issue. Now, time jump. Issue 2 was published February 1963. Issue 3 was published April 9th, 1963. So 2 months later.
That's not as big as a jump, but still.
Now, first
still
appearance,
not monthly.
First appearance of Dr. Octopus, and this is also the first appearance of his spider signal.
What was the date?
April 9th.
Yeah, because it says July on the thing.
It says July, so it's always about 2 months off. But first appearance of Dr. Octopus, he's like my favorite Spider-Man villain. So this is just an iconic issue. First of all, this cover is probably my favorite cover out of these 5.
This is a great cover.
I love Doc Ock's shadowed face with the tentacles wrapping out and holding him. It's just awesome.
I loved reading this issue. I read it today. I read it earlier. I loved reading this issue. It holds up.
It holds up.
The character of Doc Ock holds up. The issue itself, some of the fight panels, it's good. It's good stuff.
And
even with the Human Torch, how they include him, it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. And honestly, this is the first issue where we get to see him actually trying to be a hero. Because, I mean, right from the get-go, very first scene of the comic book, it's some guys robbing, is it a bank or something? They have a safe that they're stealing.
It's a big safe on wheels.
And he uses his spider signal to warn his enemies for some reason. And he comes in and he's thwarting crime. So we actually see him doing good for good reasons.
I think I said earlier that it was issue 4 where I feel like he got it. Like he kind of learned the lesson. I'm pretty sure it's this one.
Yeah.
It's this one.
It's a little of both. Because this was, I do like, there's a panel after he catches the robbers where he's thinking and he says like, oh, this is too easy. I've run out of enemies who can give me any real opposition. So there's still a bit of arrogance. He's like, no one can beat me. Like, I'm so strong.
He seems like he's just bored at this point. He's like, I guess I'll just beat the crap out of these guys because like there's nothing else better to do.
Yep. And that is where we go to Doc Ock's origin. Iconic.
Which, I'm trying to like think of my words here. Obviously, in these early issues, there's really no backstory to Ock whatsoever, other than what we like see exactly here. And I'm not exactly sure how much it's delved into later, because I know he comes back in like 11 and 12. I don't know how much we get of him like later.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm thinking of modern day, like after Superior Spider-Man, we've had a lot of character development for Octavius, so I love his character. But back then, it's just he's this smart scientist. I love how he's called Dr. Octopus before he becomes a villain.
that's pretty cool.
It's almost like a mocking name. They're like, oh, he's Dr. Octopus because he has these tentacles. But as with most supervillain origin stories, it's something atomic, something with radioactive, you know.
That panel though,
That's my
with the
favorite
explosion.
panel. Yep.
That's great.
I was going to point out that too. In terms of art, I guess I'll show it on the camera here. That panel with the red and black, I mean, that is just awesome.
It's great.
Great art. That's Steve Ditko deserves some credit there. But this is where they actually dive into why he kind of goes crazy. And this is something that I think the Sam Raimi trilogy got right, is where the accident actually like makes him go crazy. It's not like Otto Octavius was crazy from the get-go. His brain chemistry got messed with.
Which is obviously they don't have time for it in this issue, and they weren't going to put this in the early issue. But I would love to see him a little bit before the accident to see like where exactly he was mentally before, like how much of it really was the explosion. Obviously, they're saying it was pretty much all of it.
Yeah,
was made him go crazy.
And he almost immediately he's like, they're trying to keep me prisoner. I need to break out. Let me take these people hostage.
Like he's got no family.
Yeah, no.
He's in the hospital.
I think they dive into it later. His parents are dead, I'm pretty sure, and he doesn't have a wife or anything like that. But yeah, so that's where he's, the news is that explosion, and so Peter's hired to go take pictures of him. And that's why he's going, is to go get pictures. But that's where he sees that he's holding them hostage.
And he's like, I got to do something about it.
Yeah. But this, other than if you consider Vulture kicking him, this is the first time we see Spider-Man lose.
Oh, yeah, he loses. He gets beat.
Yeah. He gets beat, he gets thrown out the window, he loses his fight. And that is why I love Dr. Octopus and I love this comic book. Because this was, if you're thinking of a kid reading this is the first time you go like, oh my gosh, Spider-Man got beaten. Like, this guy's so strong.
And Spider-Man even says, he's like, he could have killed me.
And Peter does not take it well.
No. I will have to say, pause before we go past this. The panel where he gets smacked is the most iconic thing I've ever seen in my life.
He's holding him with the forelegs. He just slaps him.
Smacks him. That's great.
That is Dr. Octopus at his best.
That is incredible.
Just a disrespectful slap. But he gets also tossed out.
I'm going to love his evolution of his look. Because obviously it changes quite drastically from this issue to like in the hundreds. Where he's like, what? Green and yellow?
Yeah.
Green and yellow suit. That's going to be cool to like follow. Is his look change?
Mm-hmm. He's in the white lab coat now.
Scrubs.
Yeah, scrubs, yeah. But Doc Ock's master plan is to go break into this atomic research center and just like do experiments, I guess. I don't really know.
Like unwarranted, like just crazy experiments.
Just a mad scientist, but
he just wants to be unstoppable. I think he just wants like all the power. He's just like power hungry.
That's what I like about this issue. We see him lose, and then we see him take it hard. He's like, "Oh, I'm done being Spider-Man. I lost. I can't do it anymore." Until, of course, Johnny Storm comes and talks and he gets this motivational speech, and he's right. By golly, he's right, and he gets this like motivation. And it was so fun to me reading this because he goes up to Johnny and he's like, "Hey, I wanted to thank you so much for what this meant to me." And I'm just thinking of like in the future, like him and Johnny become best friends.
Pretty cool.
And he's like looking up to him as his hero right now. But that's where he gets that spark. He's like, oh, the Fantastic Four can do it. I can do it. Like, I can be a hero. I can stop him. And so he goes to stop Dr. Octopus just for the good of it. So I think that's this is the first moment we see him kind of step into his own.
I think there is a little bit of like, he beat me though, and I'm going to kind of get back at him. But I think that's more in that's not like in the forefront. I think it's like 50-50 where like he actually wants to do the right thing, and he's also kind of like wants to make it up to himself.
That's what makes him a believable character. It's a subtle character detail of like he wants revenge.
Where in the earlier issue, it's like I'm gonna go take a picture of this guy, and these people might die, so I guess I'll just help them because I guess it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I think this seems again, it's growing.
And this is where we further get to see what I love about Spider-Man is how he outsmarts his villains. I mean, issue 2, he created that device to, counteract Vulture's flying. And this one, he dodges the cameras and then he goes into a chemical lab and he's like mixing chemicals to make a glue that'll fuse his legs together. I mean, you see how smart he is, really.
Yeah.
So
these panels are great too. These fight scenes are awesome.
I love the fight scene with Dr. Octopus. I mean, the art is fantastic. Steve Ditko is great. And I love, this is the first time you get the iconic web to the face.
Yes.
That's iconic. They did it in the movies. They've done it in so many comic books. He grabs all of his arms and he shoots the web in his face. And, he's like, I can't see. And that's how he ultimately stops him. And
there, I got them off.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for telling us.
Yeah, he's narrating, I got my glasses off. Like, who talks like that? No one does, but it's the 60s.
Also, they are throwing, Spider-Man throws a punch.
He knocks him out.
Knocks him out cold.
Knocks him out. But this...
I do like how simple, like he even says it, like how simple he really needed to go to get him. Just knock him out.
Just knock him out. Yep. And I love how like Johnny Storm is like, oh, I'm here to stop Dr. Octopus, and Spider-Man's like, don't worry, buddy, I got it. I took care of it. Like, he's enjoying his win. But
yeah, okay. For whatever reason, I thought this happened in issue 4, but it was, it's this issue. Like, it seems like this is when he really starts to get it, and it's because of Johnny Storm, not his uncle dying.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, it contradicts what I feel like a lot of people think. Like, his uncle died, and he immediately gets it. He's like, oh, great. Great power comes with responsibility. Let's go fight everybody because it's right. It's like, no, it really was the damn torch.
That's kind of what they did for the movies. And, I mean, in the comic, of course, it says great power, great responsibility. But, yeah, you kind of see him. And I think that's, he looks up to the Fantastic Four. And they talk about this a lot over the years, is like he looks up to them. And so that's where I think he's trying to be more of a hero because of that. I do love this issue has a special bonus pin-up page at the back, which just hurts me because so many people probably ripped those out, put them up on their wall. I wonder if my issue has it. I should probably open this up and check. But...
that's another thing. I'll say this. I know I kind of messed with it too. The books I have, I actually read them from the book, which he was scared. I'm very careful. All right, here we go. Go comment down below that I shouldn't even look at my comic books that I own. Go ahead. But that's an experience. That is like a true experience. It's like, it's wild. It's a wild thing.
I did not read in my physical. I don't dare open these. I have read them before. I mean, I've read these at least once in person because you gotta.
You have to, right?
But I just don't dare. I'm too
scared.
And
that's kind of why I did it. Is because like I did like 6 years ago. Some of these things, 5 years ago, probably longer than that I read them. It's like I don't really remember. I kind of remember it, but I don't really remember it as much as I would like to. So I'm gonna do it now at my older age. So I probably won't. I might never. I'm gonna ever open them again.
Yeah.
I might get them CGC at this point, but I've done it. I've read them. I can relax now. I've done that.
You gotta defend yourself too much. All right? It's your comic book. You can do whatever you want with it. This issue, I think this is the first one that has letters written in from readers.
Is it?
Because it has letters. I don't know if issue 2 did. But I do think it's funny. They have their address.
No shit.
I don't know if it's printed in the omnibus, but in here it'll have the letters and it has their name and address, which is like
it has them in the in this too.
They're just doxing people, but
straight up, Bill Ryan from Ohio.
But yeah, so I thought that was fun. They have the letters there, but all in all, out of these 5, I think 3 is probably my favorite one. I mean, that's just.
Well, this will segue. So that's your favorite because out of all these, the 6 that we are talking about today, that is your favorite read.
I think 3 would be my favorite one.
Believe it or not, segue into it. Number 4, by far, I enjoyed the most.
I would put that at a close second.
By far. Like I was actually reading this, I was like, this is like I'm enjoying this like a lot.
It's good.
It's good.
It's really good. So I guess from there, we'll dive into perfect segue. Number 4, published in June 11th, 1963. Mm-hmm. So this was, 2 months after April, so it was every other month.
Yeah.
Back then. First appearance of Sandman. First time they actually name Betty Brant, so it's kind of the first appearance of Betty. yeah, I mean, what did you think about this issue? I know you loved the read. I mean, Sandman is such a cool villain.
He's really.
He's so creative. I mean, that's just Stan Lee is so creative with all of these ideas and all these Spider-Man villains. That's part of the reason Spider-Man is so successful, is because he has so many iconic villains. But this is where it actually really dives into Spider-Man being a hero.
Being a hero and actually caring about everybody but himself and his aunt.
Yeah.
And you see really how much he does care for Aunt May, even more in this issue. But then also how much of a kid he is by forgetting about her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, it starts off with kind of the same thing we saw in issue 3 with a spin on it. He's trying to, like, thwart some bank robbers.
Oh, yeah.
But they trick him.
That was funny.
Which is very, like, in my opinion, it's very 21st century, because it's like, that's something you would see happen nowadays. Like, are you assaulting me right now? I didn't do anything wrong.
I love that. He's like, oh, I'll catch them before they... Like, he learned the valuable lesson. Amateur Spider-Man. He learned the valuable lesson. You gotta wait till they do the crime to stop him.
Yeah, and this is why, like, even though a lot of these issues are made for kids, and, like, you can see, like, Stan Lee is... It's not so in-depth in some ways. Like, he's a good story writer, and he's smart with, like, what he's doing. Mm-hmm. Like, you can see that he's like, I'm gonna make this guy make a mistake.
Yeah.
And, like, understand that he made a mistake. Instead of, I'm just gonna have him stop some bank robbery.
Well, and I loved the scene because it reminds me a lot of, I mean, Spider-Man Homecoming did it, where there was just some guys robbing a bank and he tries to fight him, and that fight goes horribly wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so corny, and I love it. Like, he goes in to stop him, and then there's a panel where they're all just like, police, police, and he's like, wait, guys, like, you were committing a crime, and then the cop comes over, and he's like, what the heck is going on over here? Like, it's so ridiculous and goofy.
And he's like, I need to, like, put this in the files, man. I need to make a report about this.
Yeah, and he's like, well, I'm out of here, I guess, so.
He's like, I need your name and your address. He's like, oh, crap, I gotta go.
He's like, yeah, just put it to Spider-Man. But this is where now they do mention the Daily Bugle. The building says Daily Bugle now.
So I guess you can maybe say it's the first appearance of the Daily Bugle.
Yeah, I don't know if it had been mentioned, but...
The Daily Bugle and Now Magazine.
He does them both.
So both.
Yeah. So
interesting.
But this is where now he just kind of sees Sandman running and goes to fight him. I love the spider signal. He totally just ruins the element of surprise by being like, hey, here's a signal. I'm coming to beat you up.
He just turns around and he's like, holy Hannah, who are you?
Yeah, I guess he sees his face. He's like, whoa, you're ugly. What the heck?
Yeah, you got a mug on you, bro.
But then he turns to sand, and that's where it just becomes, how do you fight this guy? And he can turn himself hard.
You can turn him into rock hard sand. That's just so cool.
So good. And then what I love about this is his mask gets ripped. So he's like, oh no, I have to run away because I can't let him know who I am. So he actually runs away.
Another classic thing that can happen to him. Yeah. It happens pretty early on. Again, I didn't expect it to happen so early.
I love the panel of showing like what would happen if he got ousted, and it shows Aunt May like homeless, selling shoelaces.
She looks like a goblin in that.
She's selling shoelaces
for 10 cents each.
Yeah.
Don't worry about me, Peter darling. Just an old lady.
But yeah, Sandman gets away and he goes on his crime spree. He goes robs a bank while Peter has to sew up his costume. It's like, whatever will I do? And then they dive into the Sandman's origin.
He's like really bad at sewing. And it's like, how did you even make the costume in the first place then?
I thought the same thing. He's like, oh, I don't know how to sew this mask. I was like, how did you make this entire like intricate costume then? But we'll overlook that, I guess.
Sandman, he's like really powerful. Like he can just make his finger into keys. He can make himself hard. He's pretty much, and like can't kill him.
Mm-hmm. And before they
make his body a V and punch
later on, they make a lot of these villains more relatable. But in these early issues, there you go, do another shot. It's literally just like, I'm gonna rob banks. Like I'm gonna steal the diamonds. Like they're just villains.
Realistic though.
And it's fun. It's goofy, but. Yeah, Aunt May is doting after Peter, making him, cookies and milk. Man, I just read that panel about cookies and milk, and I am hungry now. I want some cookies.
I don't want to think about it, because I know it. I can get some.
I might have to get some cookies after we're done recording this. I'm not going to lie. But
Oh,
but Aunt May, doting after Peter, lovable Aunt May. But he fakes being sick, and then ultimately goes back out to fight Sandman. And I love the fight scene at the school.
it's really cool. I love how like they foreshadow the vacuum.
Oh yeah.
That's good. I like that.
I love. We did scoop past JJ with his underwear.
Right. Yeah, we skipped a little bit.
Plays his prank on JJ. That's a little mischievous, but he does
Again,
that, and that's goofy.
Peter Parker's kind of a little rascal.
He's kind of a punk.
He's a little rascal.
Yeah, you can. I mean, like JJ's a little unfair thinking he's a menace, but he's not really trying to soft things over.
Yeah, it's deserved, but
yeah,
not making his case any better.
But
like I said, like way earlier, like yeah, he's unlucky in some instances, but he does not make his situation better.
He does it to himself a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sandman, I love how he just charges into the room and there's a principal there, and the principal's just like a total badass for no reason. Yeah. He's like, get out of here, man! I'm not bowing down to you.
The principal should have his own comic book because he is the biggest hero we've met so far.
He's the most selfless character in this comic book.
100%.
And my favorite thing, Sandman, he's robbing banks. He charges into this principal at the school, and for some reason he's just like, hey, give me a high school degree.
Give me my diploma that I deserve.
Like, I didn't know that was something that criminals were trying to steal, but Spider-Man dashes in.
They're trying to get to the point that he's just, like, not very bright.
Yeah.
And even you see the way he talks. Like, I'll try to find a example, but the way he talks, like, coulda, but they spell it out like coulda.
Yeah.
Like that type of thing.
It's a little bit of propaganda for the kids. It's like, hey, he didn't get his high school degree.
It's shut up, but it's like SHUD
DDUP or whatever.
DDUP, yeah.
Yeah, like he didn't get his college degree or his high school degree. Look at him now; he's a criminal. Like they kind of
barely speak,
paint him that way. But the fight with him is great. I love how Spider-Man starts to outsmart him a little bit. Like he knows he's gonna turn hard, and his all magical spider sense warns him. So then he like grabs him and flips him instead.
You can see Sandman's mallet hands, which
classic.
is very classic, but he has like so many other different tools as his other appearances. So that's pretty much mostly because he'll have like the ball. He'll have like I don't think of Carnage, but
the spiky
axe,
ball.
Yeah, spiky ball.
Carnage does the axe. Yeah,
he does the axe.
He's done some things like that.
The big hands. I guess he did the big hand in this one too.
Yep.
Did the big hand. He did the.
He does where he lets him go through his chest and then hardens, so he gets stuck in it.
That is so cool.
So cool.
But he uses it to his advantage to flip him over.
Yeah.
And knock him on his head and turn him to grain.
I love Sandman.
Yes, he is so cool.
I underappreciate him sometimes, but he is so cool. I love that they did him in the Raimi movie. I mean, he was awesome in that movie.
He's going to be back again.
He's going to be back again in No Way Home, so this key issue is going to go up in value for sure. First Prince of Sandman, yeah. It's one issue we don't own that we need to get.
I like how he has the screw gun and he's like, I'm going to put this in. I'm gonna drill you, bro. Like, this is what's going to happen. Like, are you scared? But it's obviously a ploy, but it's like, are you ready? Like, this can go through anything. And Sandman's like, I thought we've been over this, pal. Like, it's not going to do nothing to me.
And he outsmarts him. He gets him to turn to sand. He sucks him up Ghostbusters style into the vacuum. I guess this is before Ghostbusters.
No, yeah, sure, right?
Well, he defeats Sandman by sucking him up. And then I love how he's like, oh, I didn't get any pictures. Let me grab this pile of sand and recreate them.
Again, such a kid, dude. Not even such a kid, but such a punk.
Yeah.
Like,
faking photos.
Wasn't this in Spider-Man 3?
Eddie Brock did that.
Yeah, this not go good for Topher Grace, so I don't know why he's doing this here,
Yeah, just totally fakes the photos, sells them to JJ.
He's like, well, I mean, it just did happen a second ago, so it's just like, reshooting it.
But I love how JJ's out here, like, bossing the police around. He's like, you need to go in there and stop him. And then Spider-Man's like, I am here. I have Sandman in my vacuum capsule. I've defeated him.
Also, Sandman's... I really wanted Sandman to talk through the bag. I was waiting for it. I'll
get you next time, Spider-Man.
Yeah, I was waiting for it. It didn't happen. A little bit upset about that. But what a way to defeat a guy made of sand.
Yep.
To vacuum him up.
Classic.
My question is, what are they going to do with him now? the cops' problem now, but like I don't really know.
Just keep him in the vacuum.
Does he need to eat?
I don't know.
Is he made of sand? Does he even have a heart?
I don't know. Yeah, these are the questions that need answers.
He doesn't bleed.
We need more details, Stanley. Give us the deets.
Maybe in the next issue.
Yeah, when does he comes back?
17?
Yeah, 17 or 18.
18 maybe.
I think it's 18, yeah. But then we see Flash bullying him. Oh, is this the issue where...
whatever you say,
I think it's the next issue where he has a date with Liz. Or he was supposed to have a date with Liz. Yeah. But this issue is where Flash keeps bullying him and Peter almost snaps. He almost beats the crap out of Flash.
But we see him calm down and say, I'm not going to do this. Mm-hmm. But again, it's kind of like, issue 18. What does he say? He's like, that's not going to do anything for my image, right? Is that not kind of... No, okay, I'm wrong. No, he says it because he would probably kill him.
Yeah, he's like, I can't beat him up. It'll hurt him. And what's important about this issue, Stanley's always great at having his, like, end of issue, like, moral of the story moment. And Peter's talking to himself, and he's saying, like, am I just some crackpot wasting my time seeking fame? Like, am I just interested in adventure? Or do I want to help people? Like, why do I do this? Why don't I give the whole thing up? And I think this is him kind of realizing, like, I have a responsibility. I need to help people.
Right.
So I think that's that's what you were thinking of when you were thinking of issue 4. That's when he kind of becomes a hero because he's like, I need to help people.
Like, I have this gift. I need to do something good with it. It can't just go to waste.
Yeah.
But like I said, we see the growth through these first 5 issues that we read because I don't know if issue 1 Spider-Man wouldn't have just knocked him out, like pulverized him. I mean, he got bullied in those issues, and I guess it didn't hit him, but I guess he's getting fed up. And we can see him getting fed up. And we're going a little bit into the next episode, but issue 8, I'm pretty sure, is where he actually, like, fights him. And it's kind of cool because I don't know if Stan Lee at this point is thinking, like, okay, we're going to start building it up that Peter is really getting sick of this guy.
Yeah.
So it's boiling.
Well, and speaking of continuing stories, and this is a perfect segue,
we're
building up he's getting sick of Flash. Then we get to issue 5 where he has to save him.
Yes.
And I love that. I mean, you go from the end of issue 4 where he's like just about ready to beat this guy's teeth in, and then we go to issue 5. Now this one, you have this one, right?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Go ahead and show it off because I am so jealous. This is I want this comic book so bad. Dr. Doom. What an iconic villain. What a beautiful cover. Oh, man, that just looks so good. I'm looking at the digital cover down here, and it just looks even better on the actual comic book.
I mean, this actually is a pretty nice copy, too, so I'm very happy to be able to own this. And like I said, I read this like an hour, 2 hours ago from this actual issue. It's like such an experience to read these from. It's just so cool.
Now, I mean, that cover... I'd have to say 3 is probably my favorite cover out of these ones. This is my second favorite cover.
I like 4. 4 with all the different Sandman panels is pretty...
I think Steve Ditko's Spider-Man looks great on this cover, and then Dr. Doom's iconic. No key issues for this one. I mean, it's a crossover with Dr. Doom.
I do want to mention that this is technically his 7th appearance, because it's in this omnibus. But he was in Strange Tales Annual with the Torch.
Yep.
In between 4 and 5.
Yep, so he did have an appearance aside from this, and I know pretty soon he does appear in Avengers number 10, which is another comic book that I want so bad because that is an awesome, awesome comic book. But
I do want to, and this is I'm guilty of this in the new MCU movies. And I know we've probably referenced the movies and other culture stuff a lot. But I said, like, I hate how he's always teaming up with people in these movies. Like, I just want a solo Spider-Man film. But I kind of have to eat my words where, like, he's barely solo in any of these issues.
Yeah.
Like, he's always teaming up with somebody. And that continues.
He's always a loner, but there's always crossovers.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
It really starts to team up with them as he actually gets to know them, too.
And I think that's what makes Marvel Comics so great. I mean, comic books, DC does it too, but, like, the connected universe, the crossovers. But that's where you see, like, a Fantastic Four villain coming over in a Spider-Man issue. Now, this one was the first issue that was published monthly, so this is July.
Right.
After last issue in June. So this is where their sales were good. They started to publish it monthly. And this features Doctor Doom. Summary of the story, just a 2-second summary. Doctor Doom wants to beat the Fantastic Four. He's like, aha, I'll get Spider-Man to team up with me. Which, I think that perfectly summarizes what we were just saying about how Spider-Man is not really a hero right from the get-go. Doctor Doom straight up thinks that he will want to team up with him.
Yeah.
He thinks he's a villain.
And I think J. Jonah Jameson is not... Because he's watching J. Jonah Jameson on the TV, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, this guy's he's borderline, from what I'm hearing. So maybe we can get him to cross over to the bad side.
Yeah. So that's where one thing I'm noticing as I'm looking at the art here, this is where Spider-Man's costume is definitively red and blue.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm noticing that here. There's not black here. But Doctor Doom somehow figures out he has spider sense, and he contacts him through spider sense.
So weird. It's so strange. Like, that never happens in, like, the more modern comics, right? Like,
I don't think so. He uses his spider sense for a lot of different things, but that's an application of it that we have not seen very regularly.
I know Doctor Doom is a powerful guy. I don't know his full backstory, even though Doctor Doom is a great character.
Yeah.
Guest
cameo appearance by your dog in the background. Well, while your dog's barking, I guess I'll continue with the summary. Dr. Doom brings him in. He's like, team up with me. And Spider-Man, he's like, of course not. I'm not going to do that. And they fight. And you have robots and trapdoors and all sorts of things like that. Ultimately, Spider-Man escapes. And Dr. Doom kind of just goes on with his plan. Now, this is where the story gets really interesting. And I love this part of the story. Flash Thompson has a Spider-Man costume. And he wants to prank Peter. That is so goofy.
But didn't they mention it last issue, like, if you ever saw Spider-Man, like, they're bullying him, and they're like, if you ever saw Spider-Man, you jump out of your shoes.
Yeah, they set it up. So the
next issue, like, we're going to make it happen.
It's like, they knew they were going to monthly. They were like, all right, let's have some carryover of stories.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just love how you see him, like, creeping around the fence. And how comical is it that Dr. Doom just shows up, and he's like, I'm going to kidnap you. And they're, like, on other side of this fence is Peter Parker walking, and his spider sense doesn't warn him that that's happening right next to him.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. His spider sense can do everything except for warn him about, Dr. Doom on the other side of a fence.
Yeah. Guess he was so deep in thought, but...
Also, how unlucky is Flash? Talk about unlucky.
That's Parker timing right there.
That's pretty scary, though.
It is.
If you're Flash, got Dr. Doom, he's not a good guy.
But that's where now Peter has to go rescue him, and he has to kind of lie to Aunt May to get out. So he feels guilt about that, and you kind of see how much he cares about his Aunt May. But he goes to find Dr. Doom, and this is where he uses his spider sense to track him.
Mm-hmm.
That's another use of spider sense that we don't see a lot nowadays, because I think they realized that was a little overpowered.
Yes. It can pretty much do everything in these #earlier issues.
Yeah. But that's where I love how he shows up and Dr. Doom's like, what? But you're my prisoner. And it's like, this guy has literally been telling you that he's not Spider-Man. Like, do you think Spider-Man's just...
Also, you just met him, like, 30 minutes ago. He obviously sounds different. Probably is a different size. Come on, yeah. Dr. Doom. You're better than that.
Yeah, Dr. Doom's smarter than that. Come on now. But they have a great fight. I love the web wall, and he throws web ball. Like, he starts to actually use his webs for utility. So you see Spider-Man's kind of getting more used to fighting. He's starting to learn a little bit.
Yes.
Because he goes toe-to-toe with Dr. Doom. I mean, that's a feat.
This is really an action-packed issue.
Yeah.
Like, there is a lot
of fighting. Stan even says that. Where is it? He goes, let's face it, you've struggled through one of the longest introductions you've ever read, but we think you'll find it well worth it because now the fireworks begin. Actually,
in the beginning, he's like, he's like, the opening captions always tell you that it's about to be the most exciting story you've ever written, or the most dangerous menace. We're not going to tell you that. But how can you not think that?
That's where they make it an action-packed, long fight scene with Dr. Doom. Lots of different gadgets. Typical Dr. Doom fight, but I love how Spider-Man actually holds his own. Like, he's able to fight him. And kind of beat him in a way. He makes him run away.
Very powerful foe at that. It's Dr. Doom. Nobody to spit at.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And ultimately, the Fantastic Four show up, and that's when Doctor Doom's like, "Oh, I got to get out of here because the 5 of them will kick my butt."
Yes.
And what I love,
Shark appears. He just scattered.
what I love is that Peter, where is it? I think it's earlier. He sees that it's Flash Thompson here. Or when he finds out earlier that it was Flash Thompson who got captured, and he has a moment where he goes, "This is perfect. I don't have to deal with him anymore. He's taken care of."
Yeah.
And that's where you see again, like he thought about beating him up last issue. This issue, he's like, perfect, like he's gone. But then his morals, he'll literally die. But then his morals come through, and he's like, "No, I can't do that. Like even though I hate Flash, I have to save him."
Right.
And that's where I think you start to see his morals come through, and he's more heroic. And then, of course, Flash is, lies about it and says, like, "Oh, I fought Doctor Doom." And, Peter's just like, "Oh, Flash." Like, kind of a goofy little ending.
We completely skipped over the whole Betty Brant date thing.
Oh, he had a date with Liz.
It says Betty Brant.
He had a date with Liz, and then he started to crush on Betty.
Right, yeah, that's why I got it.
So Peter's just a ladies' man now.
Such a 15-year-old. Like, he goes from one girl to the other. He's like, "Oh, Liz." He's like, "Oh, then Betty. I think she likes me. I'd like her too. I mean, for sure."
What I think is funny is they mentioned that Peter asked out Liz off screen, between issues. Yes. I'm like, I would have loved to see Peter Parker ask out Liz Allen.
Supposedly, he just wore her down.
Yeah.
Just wore her down.
He doesn't seem like the type of guy to be like, "Go out with me, please," like asking her over and over.
"Hey, sugar, you want to go out and get a pop?" Like,
but then the weird part is, I mean, we'll get into this as we continue to read through the series, is Liz ends up kind of crushing on him.
Yeah.
So, but now they show kind of Betty Brant is interested in him, and so he's a ladies' man.
He's like, "You should stop being so mean to him." Is that this issue?
One of them, yeah.
One of them might have been the last one, but.
But that's, I mean, yeah. When you think of Peter Parker's first girlfriend, you wouldn't think of like Gwen Stacy or Mary Jane. It's Liz Allen, Betty Brant. Those are those early love interests in the comic. So
early crushes. It doesn't really go anywhere. At least I'm not sure until obviously Gwen Stacy in there.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's earlier in this issue though, where she sticks up for him.
I think so.
Yeah. Being so mean, being so tough on him.
Yeah.
So even though she's pissed at him for like ditching her. It was kind of funny though. After like he defeated Doctor Doom, like he goes back and he's like, "All right, I'm actually free tonight." So.
And she's like, "No, I'm going out with Flash."
That's not happening.
But overall, that's the last issue for this episode. So what are your thoughts? First 5 issues of Spider-Man. How are you feeling about it?
A lot more story than I expected.
Yeah.
If you sit down and read, AF-15, 1 through 6, or 1 through 5, you might think, "Oh, it's just going to be like mostly for kids," which it was. And there's not going to be a lot of story. There was a lot more than I expected. There is continuation issue to issue, which I did not expect. Like little things. Like the building of like the fighting with Peter and Flash and all that different type of stuff. There's a lot more of that than I expected, and it's nice. And to see his character growth, I did not expect it to be as strong either.
Yeah.
To actually had that included. I thought it was just mostly going to be like Spider-Man meets the Vulture, Spider-Man defeats the Vulture, on to the next issue. There's a lot more in between those fights and stuff like that.
Yeah. I like how he starts to he learns that he can make gadgets, and he learns how to fight. He starts using his webs. Like you see him taking his first baby steps as a superhero.
Right, he's learning. He didn't jump into it knowing everything to do, and he wasn't perfect. He's still not perfect. Issue 5, he's still learning. There's still a lot of growth to go.
But I think in these first 5 issues, we see that arc. He goes from being an absolute amateur to issue 5, he goes toe to toe with Doctor Doom.
Right.
So you kind of see him over issue 2 and 3 and 4. You see him get better and better every single time, and he starts to learn. And then it kind of culminates in issue 5 where he's ready to fight Doctor Doom, and that's where I think he's kind of stepped into his own, and he knows what he's doing now a little bit.
Right.
He's got a clearer picture, but that's I love the first 5 issues. I mean, I know as we get later on in the series, not every issue is going to be as iconic as every single one of these issues.
There's still a lot of icons.
But that's where we'll dive into a lot of more story, and we'll actually see that growing, character and world and all of that. I'm looking forward to all of that. I'm
actually excited for a lot of these villains, which I think we will get some in the next episode to return.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to think this just went monthly, and then 2 issues later, we get a repeat villain. Maybe they didn't have enough time to make a new one. And so they
Maybe.
repeated it early.
Maybe.
Like, there's not a lot of first appearances. As 1 through 5, there was like a bunch of first new appearances, which makes sense.
Right.
But then 6 through 10, there's like 3.
They start to return, and then you have 11 and 12 where Doc Ock comes back, and
I don't even think there's really any.
yeah. But that's where, so if you're reading along with us, if you want to join us on the Webheads Comic Club journey, the next episode, which will be next Monday, this will be coming out, we're recording this on a Sunday. This will be coming out a week from when we record this. So the next episode will be coming out on next Monday after this one comes out. We will be going over issues 6 through 10.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to read along with us, go ahead and read Amazing Spider-Man 6 through 10, and we will come right back here, same spot, here on YouTube, DA Comics, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts.
I have a question
and
for
we'll
you.
go over those issues. Shoot.
Before you read 6 through 10,
Mm-hmm.
which one are you most looking forward to?
I am most looking forward to 9.
That's a good one. That's a real good one. Let's see if it lives up. If I remember, I'm gonna ask you next week if it lived up to your expectation before you reread it.
Because I love Electro.
I love Electro too, but I'm actually really interested to reread 6.
I thought that first.
Right. And 8. Even though when I was a kid I thought 8 was boring because there's not much going on other than like actual real people stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of excited to
As an adult, it might read differently.
after reading the first 5 issues with building tension with Flash, I'm excited to read that issue.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see Lizard is going to be awesome. The return of Vulture. 8 to see if it's a little more interesting as an adult. Because I thought the same thing. I thought it was boring as a kid. And then 9 with Electro and 10, the Enforcers.
Big Man in the Enforcer.
Yeah. So that'll be next episode. So I'm really looking forward to this. So we're going to be doing this every single week. 5 issues every single week. So we're going to be getting deep into the history of Spider-Man. So I'm really looking forward to see how the story evolves and how it gets deeper over time and these characters.
And we will be evolving too. I'm sure we'll get better at doing this as well, throughout the time.
Yes, we will be learning as we go. We are walking and running and learning as we go along. So stay tuned there. But ultimately, if you want to see the next episode, we will be premiering these every Monday on DA Comics YouTube channel. Where is it? There it is. As well as if you want updates on all of this stuff, follow me on Twitter. I try to tweet out updates on when things are coming, things like that. Go subscribe to JP Creations. You haven't made a video in a while. Do you have anything?
No.
Do you have anything to tease for the people?
Go follow my Instagram. That's where you get all your fill of me. There's stuff going to be going on my Instagram, and that will lead into things that will be going on the channel. I got some comic things going on too in the future. So I'm cooking right now. Things are cooking right now.
Okay.
But they're not ready to be plated.
That's where, so things are cooking right now. So go and subscribe to JP Creations if you're not already. Go follow him on Instagram. Be ready for when those things drop because I know we've all been waiting for a new video. So that'll be coming anytime soon. But until then, when you need your fill of JP, you can find him right here on Webheads next week. So that's where we leave you guys. So if you enjoyed this, hit that like button. Comment your thoughts down below. Did you read these 5 issues? What did you think? We'd love to have a discussion. We will definitely be reading comments and replying to comments. This will be premiering live, so we might even be interacting with the chat with you right now. So leave your thoughts down below, and we will see you guys next week on Webheads.
Next week, we will have our gadget belts.
We will have our utility belts ready to go.
Yep.
See you guys next week. Adios.